Welcome to Thinking Green. I'm Rana, and I'm here tonight with Diane Hansen. We're both members of the Riverside Park Conservancy. And I think about once a year we try to do a show to remind everyone about this wonderful park we have in New London, because it's sort of in a forgotten corner, it feels like sometimes.
Yes.
So welcome, Diane.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. I just want to let people know this is a live show. Nowadays, it doesn't seem as though most of them are live, but since it is live, people can call in, which is kind of nice. So I don't know, I kind of thought we'd start with just a little bit of talking about the history of the park, not in detail because, we don't really, we weren't around back then. But we have a couple of old postcards, and there are quite a few more in various collections that show the park as it was 110 years ago. So, I don't know, we can see there's one of the entrance. And I bet some of those houses are still the
there.
Same houses. And the interesting thing about that fountain, which was not the most beautiful part of that park, but the perimeter rocks are still in the ground.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing that you can still kind of see that.
Yeah, it's about I don't know, maybe it was a 20-foot diameter circle, and some are totally buried, but you can definitely see the outline of the fountain in that field that's mostly empty. And then, this spot kind of, I tried to figure out exactly where it is, and I do wonder if the lower left is where the amphitheater is and the upper right is maybe where the basketball court or the Pine Grove is. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I love the concept of it being a Victorian walking park. Like, I can just picture women in corsets after a big dinner walking it off.
Yeah.
And gentlemen with cigars.
And I think, before the 60s, it really was a destination park, when it was a 35-acre park and not an 18-acre park. And I could see at that point where it really would have been someplace that people, I'm not saying you drive 2 hours to go there, but certainly from the other end of town or from surrounding towns to walk in this park that has shade, that has beach.
A gorgeous view of the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a, well, of course it's dear to my heart, but it's an amazing park. Even at 18 acres, it's an amazing park.
It is. I am a little envious of the people who grew up here who tell me, oh, we picked blueberries and huckleberries, yes. And most of the blueberry and huckleberry picking was the area that is no longer the park.
Oh, the Coast Guard gazebo area?
Yes. So it was a
that
bit
was
of
important for them to make.
Yeah. So it was really, I think even people who are still alive, younger than you and me, some of them, who talked about how before 4th of July and other holidays, people would sleep in the park overnight to snag their favorite picnic spots.
Oh, that's fun. Well, people still, I mean, people still go there. It's popular. People are grilling on holidays all the time. People play basketball all the time. The playscape is, I ran into a couple and their kid from another state who just, they needed a place to stop to let the kid run off some energy before they continued their travels in the car. So it's not a hidden secret or anything. It's a vital, vibrant, good place to go park.
I know. I tell people that one year when we thought we might be trying to get money to refurbish the basketball court there, I visited on January 1st because, you know, CDBG applications are due in early January, and I went to Toby May Park, which had a renovated basketball court, and Bartlett Park, which also had a renovated basketball court, and Riverside, which has kind of
down at the heels basketball court.
Right. But the one that people were playing basketball at was Riverside Park.
There you go.
So yeah, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case or it was a coincidence that particular day, but the basketball players have always liked that park. And you know, the dog walkers, like not only will you know, people try to run their kids ragged there, but it's a good place for dogs too.
Yeah, I think so. I just think that compared to other places in the city where there's a basketball court, it's nice to have the shade. And it's, you know, it's nice to be able to step away from the court and sit at a picnic bench under a tree, as opposed to the other parks in town that are all pretty treeless and flat. So I think Riverside has its own ambiance, its own charm.
And it is really rare, especially for something near the coast, to have shade, and that is why we have the playscape we have.
And it's not like any other park in the city. And I would like to keep it that way.
Well, I wouldn't mind growing it a little. Getting stairs down from Winthrop School, I could get grandiose, but you're right. We certainly wouldn't want to lose what we have, and it would be nice to be able to, you know, start putting pieces back in, because, you know, when it started out, it didn't start out as one big parcel. A lot of little bequests and gifts were glommed together into, you know, 35 or 36 acres.
Well, it's good that we're trying to make one little improvement at a time. I love the gazebo. I think that was a fabulous improvement. The playscape, amazing. The wayfinding sign, we do need to work on the bathroom. But
yeah.
It would be nice if we could get some cooperation from the city traffic control and public works to remove some pavement, improve some pavement, rejigger the circulation pattern for cars, because people don't walk up and down hills anymore. You know, they want to drive in, and I get it. I have breathing problems, and I totally get it. I want to drive in.
My goals are actually a little more modest, but you know, Adelaide Street is one way that people can drive to the viewpoint.
Right.
But and I do remember when it was totally choked with knotweed growing, and you couldn't drive down it at all. But I think it could get smoothed out and really paved, because my car is kind of low, and I drove down there once only. I won't again, because I scraped, and I don't want a new car or a high car.
You don't want to get into a truck? No, come on. So if we're going to get grandiose, then let's reopen the beach. That's a beautiful beach. My kids, when they were going to day camp there, they would go to the beach every day. And it was a nice beach. They actually had a lifeguard there.
I remember when the lifeguard was removed. I don't think I lived in New London quite yet, but I believe it was the early 1990s. Not that, I mean, it's long ago, because I'm old, but it was just 30 years ago within our memory.
It was like 96 when my youngest kid was going to day camp there.
So maybe it was still there into the late 90s.
Yeah, at least the mid-90s. There was a lifeguard assigned to that park because they had day camp there. And it wasn't the city, it was, I think, YMCA that had their day camp there. But they would go across the bridge and go swimming in the river, and yeah, it was good. The beach was cleaned by, you know, I mean, it wasn't naturally clean, but it was cleaned because that's part of the city services. But, I mean, it would be wonderful to have an at-grade crossing and be able to go to the beach. Yeah. I don't even require a lifeguard. I just, you know, some good signs that say no swimming, and it would be nice to be able to, I've been told that it's a good place to pull up a sailboat.
It would be great to have a kayak or, you know, small boat ramp there. And I think the mayor at one time was hoping that the state boat launch might end up there. I can't imagine anything large. But I think it would be
very shallow.
It is
quite a ways out.
And the one thing, you know, I understand that the trains, you know, and maybe the DOT doesn't like at-grade crossings, but it does seem funny to me that in the middle of our downtown, which is a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic, there are 3 at-grade crossings.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem to bother anyone.
And people learn to take care of it, and and at the bottom of Adelaide, there maybe a train sometimes sits there, but it could sit a little left or right, and I don't think there are moving trains except for maybe one short period every 24 hours. So it seems like it would be a good place to make an exception and actually have an at-grade crossing. That whole area would be great. And the water quality is pretty good there. You know, it's better than the water quality at Green Harbor or some of the beaches near the mouth of the river. Mm.
Well, it is a nice little beach. It would be a lovely addition to the neighborhood for those of us who live up there. It would be a lovely thing for visitors. They could park at Riverside Park and then walk over to the beach. So I don't know, maybe that's going to be on Riverside Park Conservancy's agenda for the coming year.
That would be kind of an exciting thing to do. I wonder, you know, what it would take to get the Department of Transportation and the railroad companies to figure out how to do an at-grade crossing. We kind of have the worst of both worlds. Like places where there were trains and there are 0 trains now, a lot of them have put in bike and walking trails.
Right.
And that would be fine. You wouldn't need a special crossing. People could just walk across. And imagine riding a bike to Norwich along that flat 14, 15 miles, you know.
Well, the issue then would be that the tracks go right through the Coast Guard Academy. And the Coast Guard Academy is Homeland Security, and I don't think Homeland Security wants any trains or bicycles coming through their academy. So, you know, there are these wonderful dreams about having local train service, New London to Norwich. I would ride it. I would, just for the fun of it. I would, not that I need to go to Norwich, but it goes through the academy, and I don't think that they want that.
No, and I think the academy did change quite a bit when it became under Homeland Security, which was what, 25 years ago. Prior to that, it was part of the Department of Transportation.
Right, but 9/11 changed a lot.
It did.
So what other slides do we have?
Okay, we have the next slide we have is the wayfaring sign that you can see when you go into Riverside Park. It's on the kiosk, and I didn't put the legend in this picture. When you go to the park, there is a legend that shows what all these little symbols mean. But we decided to do this, I think, because the road system within the park is a little bit complicated for a park its size. And people, at least, maybe not now, but 10 years ago, would come in and like they wouldn't know how to get where they were going.
Right.
It's not that big, but it wasn't really obvious. So we have that sign, and the one thing the sign does show is that it's there are roads through it, but it's a wooded park. Mm. And these are some just pictures from nowadays. We had the old picture of the entrance. Well, this is what the entrance looks like now. Some things have changed, some things have not. There isn't a fountain over to the left of that, but there is now like a bioswale to capture runoff, and a very nice one-way road in. This is from a year ago. Maybe in a month we'll have it weeded and it will look like that again. We are uncovering the plants. The fight against invasives is like never ending.
It's daunting, for sure.
And there you can see the playscape off to the right. The gazebo is out of sight, but to the left, and so is the basketball court.
And the river is way on the right.
Yeah. So
it is, really,
yeah.
I find it an attractive park, and I like to be there. I enjoy going there.
And
the river.
And this is something that the city did. There had been an old bathhouse there to service people going to the beach with a lot of changing stalls, and that was taken down. I don't think this stage has been used. There are big boulders that people can sit on. It would be kind of intriguing to try to have a performance down there. I'm not that kind of artsy person that could do it.
Well, I guess we could talk to Flock Theater and see if they want to do something there.
It would be a great backdrop up against the river and Groton on the other shore. Mm. It's the Oddfellows. It's really an attractive part of Groton that you look into as well. But several years ago, the city also put, you can see a little bit of it, these solar panels on stakes, and they have charging stations. So I don't know if
EV charging stations?
Not EV, no, phone charging.
Phone charging, okay.
You can charge your phone.
I was like, whoa,
not
when
your
did that
car.
happen?
But that's a really good idea. I mean, more and more people are looking for EV stations, and it has to be somewhere where you want to like hang out for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down with that. It would be nice that'd be a draw to people who come into the park. Like you can pull up your sailboat and charge your phones, or you can drive your car in and charge your car. That'd be good.
Yeah. So I don't know. We talked a little bit about current conditions. We mentioned the bathroom does need some work. It was one of the first projects, and it needs to be power washed and painted. It's actually I think the best park bathroom in the city.
Well, we might be a little prejudiced.
We might be, and I don't know. I know Ocean Beach has done some renovating of their bathrooms, but the other parks, like Toby May and Bates Woods, do not have as nice a bathroom as we have. But they could use a coat of paint.
Yeah, and we'll get there.
Yeah. It's
all volunteers, The city has really pretty much said, you want to take care of it, take care of it.
Well, I've lately been kind of grouchy on the subject of public works funding. I got my tax bill.
It's ridiculous.
And I know that many people were unhappy because residential property taxes went up while commercial property taxes went down, the way the revaluation went. But the thing that really struck me was that, public safety was, public education was about 45% of the budget. I think public safety was maybe 30%, something like that, 25 to 30%. But debt service was like 8.4, and public works was 8.3. So
That's
our city is paying funding public works less than our debt service. And I don't know, someone recently, I don't know, we were on some kind of conversation, the person brought up sewer socialism. And,
okay.
you know, sewer socialism was a thing in Milwaukee 100 years ago, and there were these people who were sort of socialists, but they said, you know what, it isn't Republican or a Democratic issue who picks up the trash. It's like there are some things that are just done for the public good, and maybe they do become partisan issues, but they're not inherently partisan issues because everyone wants their trash picked up.
And police protection and fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the things that people want their government to do. And also, in a place where it snows, you like public works because you like to be able to leave your house.
Yeah. So, and I think the city does try to fund public safety adequately, but public works, which affects us very day to day, you know, do the streetlights work? Are the roads passable? Are the sidewalks passable? Is the trash picked up? Are city properties kept mowed?
Mm-hmm. Or are they blighted?
Yeah, those are things that really affect both residents and visitors who come to the town, and as a result, I know I've been kind of feeling the strain that it isn't just us. There are so many citizen groups that are working on beautification things,
mm-hmm.
and to the point of it being a little more fundamental what they're working on than just beautification. If it was just beautification, I think it would be fine. But when it's things like, oh, the city is outsourcing all its planting and, you know, outsourcing a lot of its planting and maintenance of street trees, and things like some of the cleanups we do at Riverside Park that are things that the public works could do more easily, except I think there are only about 4 groundskeepers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a frustrating thing for me that sometimes I'm doing things like fighting the invasives that I find really satisfying, that I love doing. And sometimes I find myself doing things and it's like, it should really be the pros who are doing this, not me.
Because if you're doing, I mean, we use hand tools to do our cleanup. So if you're trying to clean up the 3 feet that's on the side of the road, it's going to take you 20 hours.
Yeah.
And it would take them 20 minutes with one of those big
Yeah.
mowers. It's just, so it doesn't make sense for us to do it, but if we don't do it, it doesn't get done. And it's because they're funded at such a low level, and I don't understand why people don't appreciate public works, because it's not just picking up the trash.
Right, although we want that done too.
Yes, absolutely, but that's not the only thing they do.
Right.
And plowing is not the only thing they do. They are in charge of a lot of stuff. They are stretched, and I personally would like to see more money go to them.
Well, I think part of the whole, sewer socialist idea was that there are some things that people can do as individuals that are best left to individuals and families to make decisions about. But there are some things that work better to be provided like collectively. And you mentioned public safety stuff and public works. I spent like 3 months of my life living the libertarian lifestyle, like the off-grid, and I'll tell you, I gained such an appreciation for having electricity, having water come out of a faucet, having
toilet that flushes.
Yes, sewer system, mail service,
mm-hmm.
you know, phone service. Maybe you can get self-service there now, but at the time, self-service, no plowing, no, I mean, if there was a fire, you were kind of out of luck. And it gave me a real appreciation for the kinds of things that I could get in a city without even thinking about.
Right. And I personally have no patience for inconvenience, so I'm a city person, born and bred.
I've seen, this is a kind of a wild theory, but I've talked to people with very different political views, but the city people all have a certain view of New London that's quite different from those who weren't city people.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sort of gritty creativity in cities, but also just a understanding that some services they're just going to be commonized, you know. And it's a funny thing, but.
Well, I think if you're from a city, and I came here from Chicago, and the politics here reminds me an awful lot of Chicago, but you understand that nothing is perfect. The suburbs aren't perfect either. It just doesn't get into the newspaper. And there are so many advantages to what a city can offer that you just, okay, yeah, there are, you know, homeless people and weird things that happen, and there's crime, but there are all those things in the suburbs too. It just gets focused on, you know, because it's focused in a city area, then, oh, the cities are the bad place. Well, no, that's not true.
And I'm from Philadelphia, and, you know, politics-wise,
so there.
I mean, you know, Chicago had Mayor Daley, Philadelphia had Mayor Rizzo, you know. It was a similar kind of machine politics. But yeah, before we moved to New London, we rented in Pleasure Beach in Waterford for like 15 years. And I'll tell you, some pretty strange things happened in Pleasure Beach. I mean, there was the hostage thing, and then there was the person who drowned in Jordan Cove. It really was, if it made the newspapers, it was very played down, which is not something that we see in New London.
Well, I mean, there's an advantage and a disadvantage to having a hometown newspaper, right? So the day focuses on New London, because it used to be called the New London Day.
Right.
And they focus on what's happening in New London, and then it gets reported on. It's in the newspaper. So the number of stories about New London far exceeds the number of stories about Uncasville or Waterford or East Lyme. And so, oh my goodness, all this news about New London. Look at all the crime, look at all the people, look at all the police reports. Well, no, that's because we have a newspaper, it focuses on New London, and they report on the stuff that happens in New London.
And sometimes people come to the city to misbehave. Because if you look at our police log, most of the people
are not
from New London. So yeah, and of course with Riverside Park, that whole neighborhood, I mean, you live in the East New London neighborhood now, I don't, but you know, that neighborhood was so devastated by urban renewal.
Yes, it was. We're still struggling to come back from it. It was just, Hodges Square was really torn up and really, really changed, and not for the better. And it's just such a struggle to get businesses to come in and survive. It's good when the Coast Guard and Conn College are in session, but you can't survive on 8-9 months of business. You know, it's just kudos to all the businesses who've been there for a long time and carry on. But it's tough. Any business is tough, but the neighborhood is all small business. Like, there is very little opportunity to expand greatly.
Well, and I think that wasn't the case before East New London got split off. And it's only a mile from downtown, but it isn't a mile that is a pleasant walk. I guess down William Street isn't too bad, But in general, I think it was much, was like a walk in the city. You can walk in Manhattan for 3 miles and not feel it because there's something going on. And
walking on Water Street, after a while, there's no sidewalk. It's not pleasant. The traffic is horrifying. It's so fast. The people can't wait to get out of New London on Water Street. It's just, there needs to be, the street should never have been that wide, and they need to calm the traffic. It would be good to have a bike lane and a sidewalk so that people could more conveniently get from the train station to Hodges Square.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe if they do the park that's along the brook, that, is that Briggs Brook that goes through there? Okay, so Briggs Brook comes down it's an odd
It's
brook.
funny because there is a split that some of it, of course, is near North Frontage Road and the hotel that had been a Holiday Inn once upon a time. I don't know what it's called, but where the Outback Steakhouse had been. And then there's another branch that goes up maybe towards the Arboretum, I think.
Yeah, anyway, it must go into a culvert under some roads that were done in
it goes
urban
under
renewal.
State Pier.
But anyway, if they do take down the fences and trim the trees and make that brook along State Pier Road into a park, then maybe they will rethink having sidewalks on Water Street and calming the traffic on Water Street so that people can more conveniently get from downtown and the train station to the East New London Hodges Square area. And I think that will be the beginning of a renaissance.
Oh yeah, this is...
But, there are the heinous highway bridges.
Yeah. And
so the 2 fingers are State Pier, and then past the heinous highway bridges, that's East New London, and Hodges Square is to the left of the green area, which is Riverside Park.
Yeah, and you can see Fulton Park, and the new park that is proposed kind of like up and left of Fulton Park, I believe must be the old mill. They would be connecting those two with the green space. And I am looking forward to getting those fences taken down. And I hope that it's really made more walkable and bikeable when our city doesn't really do that well at making things really bike-friendly or pedestrian-friendly. When the docks was built on Bank and Howard, I was hoping, because they wanted to appeal to people who could walk to work or walk to the downtown art scene or restaurants or whatever. And that part of Bank Street is the most terrifying place to cross in the city.
Are you sure?
Well, no, maybe top 5, maybe not the
Yeah, we'll go top 5. Try by Gordon Court. Try crossing Williams Street by Gordon Court. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I don't know what's number 1.
Well, maybe we should have a contest. Let's find if Whale's Tales can do a contest. I personally, I would like to have a contest for the ugliest park bench, because I have found it. It's on Vauxhall Street.
Oh.
But yeah, it'd be fun to have a contest about where's the scariest pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
I think it's a process, and it's a process because you've been working on this for longer than I have. That we come up with an idea, people say no, then you keep nudging at them and nudging at them. What about this? What about this? What about this? And then sometimes they come around, or sometimes they have a better idea, or sometimes it's just an evolution. But I mean, it would be so nice to be able to go from, let's just say Union Station, down Water Street on a sidewalk or a bike path, on State Pier to William Street to the crossover for the bridge.
Yeah.
If that were handy, if that were convenient, if that could be publicized, if that could be brought to people's attention, I think it would be great. And I think it would be a revival for Hodges Square. Because if you have people who are biking, they're going to stop. And
yeah, it's a perfect place.
Yeah, it's a perfect place. It would be really good for Hodges Square. And I would like to see Hodges Square do better. I would also like to see the facade improvement program extended to Hodges Square.
Yeah.
We've been told that it could be, but it hasn't been. So that would be a nice thing.
Well, I shouldn't get started on form-based code in general, but and it isn't a cure-all. I have been reminded by friends in Hartford where they've adopted it, but it hasn't solved everything. But just in general, with the old cities, maintaining the integrity of a streetscape is good to keep the quality and the sense of the city, alive and cohesive. And we don't have that kind of code. And in a few places, it really shows that we don't have that kind of code.
Mm. Like the fact that we have 3 gas stations next to each other in Hodges Square. And could have a 4th one across the street.
Yeah, well.
Because that park used to be a gas station. And
yeah,
zoning is weird, Once it was something, it can always be that.
Yeah, unless the use is abandoned, which does not happen often.
No, not very often.
So yeah, so Hodges Square, we really hope for it. And I think, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, probably almost 15 years ago, we started thinking about how to reconnect Hodges Square with the rest of the city. Mm-hmm. And it's still a challenge. So I guess I'll ask you, related to Riverside Park, what do you think are the biggest challenges we face in terms of, the future of the park?
Well, number one would be the road system that's in there. It seems to have not been planned, and it seems that whatever dirt trails used to be, they were just paved, and not necessarily well. And it would be good to really do a plan and a study to see what is the best traffic circulation, acknowledging that people want to be able to drive in. People do not want to park up the hill and then walk down with all their stuff. I would like to see, there have been some extravagant plans, like a zip line from Winthrop School down to the river. And
I'll settle for stairs, actually.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Of course, the Board of Education now owns that hill behind Winthrop, so there's not a whole lot we can do as the.
I think it might have reverted back to the city.
Park Conservancy. Well, I don't know. It depends on what zoning map you look at. Anyway, it would be wonderful for us to have. When we first looked at it, it was a $3.4 million project, and it's probably a $6.8 million project by now. But to have a handicapped accessible access to the park from Winthrop School that is windy, and terraced, so that a person in a chair or a parent with a stroller could get down easily. We had envisioned science stations so that the Winthrop kids could, because that is a science magnet school, right? So it would have been wonderful to have science stations, but I don't know. What are the chances of that happening?
That is a huge challenge, and I don't know, some park expert, I forget who it was, made the observation that city parks are more successful if there's a lot of activity just outside their edges. Mm-hmm. If a whole lot of people live there, or there's a whole lot of commercial activity there, a lot of entry points. You compare Riverside Park with maybe Wilcox Park in Westerly, which is about the same size, and Wilcox has a lot going on all around it. And Riverside, it's got water on one side, it's got the Coast Guard Academy that doesn't have much flow between it and the park.
Right.
And then there is Crystal Avenue and Bowles, so there's a residential part. And the south end is sort of a mixed bag. So it isn't a dense amount of activity. So it would be really great to connect Winthrop School.
Yes. And the area around the park, the Hodges Square area, northeast New London, is very stable as far as, I mean, I did the census in 2010 and 2020 in that neighborhood, and I met many of the same people 10 years later, even renters. It's a stable neighborhood. People are homeowners. There of course are absentee landlords, but a lot of the people are homeowners, and the renters. One person told me in 2010 she'd been there 13 years. So, you know, people stay in that neighborhood. If a house comes up for sale, if it's a good house, it goes in 2 weeks. And that was even before what happened after pandemic. I'd love to see the park get a traffic pattern established, and then whatever roads we decide to keep repaved. You know, small things. There are some really beautiful natural features in the park. There's some boulders, and you can't see them because it's so overgrown. So I would really love to see Public Works come in with a brush hog and just peel away the overgrowth that's happened.
Some of which is poison ivy.
Well, and yeah, another reason that I'm not going to do it myself. My weed whacker would just not be any competition for that brush. There's a lot of overgrown stuff. There's one area next to the playscape where I don't know why they don't mow it. But by the end of the summer, it's quite tall, and it takes away from the area that people could use. I would like to see us do more in terms of runoff. We had talked about bioswales and rain gardens, and you know, I would like to see the Conservancy do more to remedy the amount of runoff that comes from Winthrop School and and Bowles Avenue down the hill and just flows into the river, because it just doesn't seem right to me that the pollution from a street is coming into the river from our park.
And there was a little bit of a skeleton of a plan, maybe in about 2014, when Mike Nadeau came and toured around, and did have a plan that the area you're talking about next to the playscape could become a rain garden, and water just on the water side of the playscape could get routed towards that area. It's an ambitious project, but it would be awesome.
It would be awesome, but it is not something that a small volunteer group can take on or should be expected to take on. It is, if it's a city park, then the city is responsible for maintenance.
So I think we should talk about what's going on in the park coming up. We do have a cleanup planting day on Saturday, September 7th.
Coming right up.
Yeah, it might be more cleanup than planting. If you look in a lot of parts of Riverside Park, some do have a lot of native plants in it, but some do have a lot of invasives. And early September is a good time to cut down knotweed. You know, if you wait till too late, the energy goes back down into the roots and they come right back. But if we can get it cut by...
You'll forgive me, but any time is a good time to cut down knotweed.
Well, that's true too. And
it's horrible.
And some places where we actually do get it cut a few times this summer, I'm not saying we've eradicated it, because that would be a lie, but it's gotten weakened to the point that other native plants can compete with it, and other things can grow there. They're not just being totally shaded out by this knotweed, but it's a big area, and we're not going to do it all, but in addition to, there's Japanese hops as well, which is the reason why you can't see probably that my hands are just like sandpaper, because I can't wear gloves. I have to feel the dirt.
And the hops are sticky, and they have like little burrs.
Yes. So I have, end up with sandpapery hands that have resin all over them. Yeah, my computer I can't use my finger to turn it on for now.
Does it recognize
my
your fingerprint?
fingerprint is temporarily unrecognizable. But anyone who would like to come, will be probably some trash pickup in anticipation of our event the following week, but also weed removal and spreading some mulch.
Nice.
Because we have some we have artists coming the following week who want to paint and like seeing the native flowers in bloom. And we have art materials for kids that week as well who are interested in doing the same.
Well, let's go to the next slide.
Yes, there's the next slide. And this is more or less what's happening on September 14th.
16th annual? 17th?
Well, we skipped. It's the first one was in 2011, and it was a big 2-day thing, and it was before the referendum. And our thought was that before people were going to vote about whether or not the city should keep Riverside Park, they should
come to see Riverside Park, yeah.
And so we had a big so in September of 2011, we did have a big festival there, and it was great. At the time, we found all the surveying pins that indicated what part of the park would be sold, and we strung caution tape around it. And some people came up to us afterwards and said, like, what a revelation. I had no idea that where the basketball court is, where the Pine Grove is, where the amphitheater is, were all going to be sold. So so we've kept the tradition, and I guess it would be the 15th or 16th year, except that I think we missed 2 years due to COVID. And we've been coming back sort of, modestly, but we'll have live music. Dot Ames from Grandma's Attic is arranging that. The musicians are Bonnie Jacobson, Bob Tyler, Brian Winoski, and Christina Meadows. And it's usually sort of folk, rock, pop, kind of not real raucous music. Adults and kids are welcome to paint, draw, pastel. Dave the magician is coming back.
Yay.
Yay, he's very popular.
Very fun.
Really great magic show, and he's a local guy. He's, and he loves coming back every year. Denison Pequot's Post Nature Center is going to come with live reptiles and amphibians. So they offered bugs and birds, but we figured we could see bugs and birds without them coming. There are a lot of them in the park already. And we'll have butterfly nets and bug boxes and art supplies for kids. We'll have pizza for everyone, probably watermelon.
Maybe some watermelon.
Yeah.
Definitely water.
Yeah.
And everything's free.
Yeah.
Bring your family, bring your friends.
We are trying to arrange to get someone who can do haircuts for the kids, but that is not, we don't know if it's going to work out or not. But
well, we'll see. It'll be a special thing if we get somebody to do haircuts.
If we do, that would be great because it's kind of a back to school time. And I'm trying to think if people want to get in touch with the Conservancy, we could really use more help.
Yep.
Everyone should feel free to join us at the cleanup day.
10 o'clock, Saturday,
Yep.
the 7th.
Saturday the 7th. If we have a decent crowd, we'll get grinders or something to eat and have a picnic afterwards. So the bigger the group, the more motivation to
Clean fast and eat.
Clean fast and eat. Yes, clean so that for the next week, everyone will be able to enjoy the park even more. And if people want to get in touch with us, There is a website, riversideparkconservancy.org. It's a little out of date because I changed computers and haven't figured out how to update from the new one. But you can email us. It forwards to the whole board if you go to info@riversideparkconservancy.org. There's a Facebook page. We have a community. We didn't talk about the community garden.
Well, that's okay. That's another show.
It could be another show at the corner of Crystal Avenue and Adelaide, a fenced-in area and some public area that neighbors and people who work in New London enjoy and grow food. And we have a pear tree that I think will have a lot of pears one of these days.
Every year it has a lot of pears, but they're rocks. Last year, in September, the pears were big and juicy. I made a lot of chutney.
So, and if Diane can make a lot of chutney, there's enough for the rest of you to come and pick some. And the fruit trees are all along the perimeter of the fence, so although the trunks are inside the fence, there is fruit accessible from the outside.
And the raspberries in the garden are excellent.
Oh, yeah. Actually, the best raspberries in town are there.
That is likely. They're very, very, very big and good.
So thank you, Diane.
My pleasure.
And I hope we see some of you in a week and a half at our cleanup, and even more of you the next week to enjoy.
Down by the riverside.
Yeah, and usually the weather is really good. And, you know, it was the artists partly who turned us on the first year when the park had been kind of neglected to what a fantastic place it was. They really brought fresh eyes to a park that didn't have such a good reputation at the time. And even those of us who really loved the park kind of had a revelation about it, seeing the paintings from it.
It's a beautiful place, and I like it.
Yes, so do I, and it's a great place for dogs too.
Children, people who want cardio, because it's really, really hard to walk up some of those hills.
It is. So, well, thanks again, Diane. And next week, we won't be live. Alice Leibowitz, who is running for state senate, I think, in the Wyndham area, is going to talk about not so much her campaign, but some of the other activities she is involved in. So that's going to be pre-recorded, so she doesn't have to drive down to New London at night. But we will see you next week. And thanks again. We'll see you at the park.
All right, thanks. Good to be with you.
Don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. When the rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. And it won't do no good to be crying out loud, babe, or cursing the sky.